For lesson 1.1, identifying integers and their opposites, we are going to be identifying a number, its opposite, and its absolute value. And at the end of this video, you should be able to identify an integer and its opposite. So you will be explaining the answer to this question: how do you identify an integer and its opposite? Let's explore some of the vocabulary that you're going to be seeing in this lesson. The first one is positive number, and these are just the numbers that you've been working with since you were a little kid. Positive numbers are numbers that are greater than 0. And you can write them with the plus sign, which we call it a positive sign, or without one. Either way, it's a positive number. Now, if it's a negative number, those are the numbers that are less than 0, and you always have to write a negative sign in front of it if you mean for that number to be negative. If you don't put the negative sign, then it means positive. So right now I want you in your notes to write down this vocabulary word, positive numbers, and the definition, numbers that are greater than 0. And then number 2, you're going to write negative numbers for number 2 and its definition, which are numbers that are less than 0. When you look at the number line, your negative numbers are all to the left of 0 and your positive numbers are to the right of 0. Notice that each negative number has a negative sign in front of it. Also, you can think about a number line being kind of symmetrical, where if you were to connect the ones together, they're the same distance from 0. They're both a unit, 1 unit away from 0. And then the 2's are both 2 units away from 0. When you apply positive and negative integers to real life, you can be talking about elevation. Elevation describes how it compares to sea level. So you have feet above sea level and feet below sea level. And where we live in the Rio Grande Valley, we are just a few feet above sea level, not very many at all. So we look at A, it says the table shows the elevation of several locations in a state park. Graph the locations on a number line according to their elevations. When you graph a number, all you have to do is just put a dot on the number line. So let's look at Juniper Trail over here. It is at -3, so you just put a dot right there at -3, and that's how you graph a line. And I'm going to have you answer this question, and I'm going to have you answer the question to C, D, and E. Now let's talk about opposites. So this is your third definition. Opposites are 2 numbers that are the same distance from 0, but they're on different sides. For example, 5 and -5 are opposites. Okay, so this is your third definition. Write it down, please. Opposites. And then define it. The same distance, 2 numbers that are the same distance from 0, but on different sides of 0. And they graphed 5 and -5 for you. So the opposite of 5 is -5. They're both 5 units away from 0. Another definition that you need in your notes is number 4, integers. They are the set of all whole numbers and then their opposites. So the whole numbers, that would include 0, okay, and all the numbers that are bigger than 0, the whole numbers. Remember, no decimals and no fractions, just whole numbers. And then their opposites, so those same numbers but negative, okay? For integers and opposites on a number line, you can graph positive and negative numbers that represent real-world quantities on a number line. And they give you some real-life examples of positive and negative numbers, or numbers and their opposites, integers and their opposites. It says, for example, 3 can represent a temperature that is 3 degrees above 0, and then negative 3 can represent a temperature that is 3 degrees below 0. But both 3 and negative 3 are 3 units away from 0, and that's why they are opposites. On example 1, it says Sandy kept track of the weekly low temperature in her town for several weeks. The table shows the low temperature in Fahrenheit for each week. Okay, I'm going to graph the temperature from week 3 and its opposite on the number line. Notice the number line is going up and down like that. It is vertical. Up and down is vertical. And when we graph week 3, which is negative 4, it was right here. And then its opposite is what? Positive 4. And here it is. Okay? They're both 4 units away from 0. And we would say 4 degrees, the positive 4 is 4 degrees above 0 right here. And negative 4 is 4 degrees below 0. That's how your meteorologists on TV would say it. When they say negative 4, they might say 4 degrees below 0. It's pretty common to hear that. Okay? B says the value for week 5 is the opposite of the value from week 1. Okay, so week 5 is not on the table, but it's telling us that it's the opposite of the value from week 1. So week 1 was negative 1. What's going to be the value of week 5? Well, what's the opposite of negative 1? It's 1. All right, here is that on a graph. This number line, this graph, is horizontal. It's sideways, so it's horizontal. Okay. This says explain how you can find the opposite of any number without using a number line. I would like to see the answer to this question. Type it out, explain it as best you can. How can you find the opposite of any number? Think about that for just a little bit before you answer it. You are going to have some graphing in your homework. Number 6 says graph the opposite of the number shown on each number line. So the opposite of negative 1, positive 1. They're both 1 unit away from 0. Number 7 is a positive 7. What's the opposite of positive 7? Negative 7. They are both 7 units away from 0. I want to see these answers for your next question. By now, you should be able to answer the essential question, how do you identify an integer and its opposite? And that will conclude your video for 1.1.